EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody. It's Super Bowl week here on Birds 365. Welcome into Birds 365, a Monday edition of the show. The narratives are set. The hype is real, Johnny Mac, and the pressure is on. Let's cut through the noise and get to what actually matters for this football game. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning? Super Bowl week, brother. We made it.
Yeah, finally here. Boy, can't come soon enough. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a great story for the Eagles, but yeah, boy, I wish it was not the extra week. I wish it was just a normal week, but you got to have the hype. You got to have the hoopla, as you know. AJ Brown says it's for everyone else, really, than the players themselves. But we're getting closer. The countdown is here to the actual game, and going to be a good test. But I think the Eagles are in a good position to maybe stop one of the greatest dynasties in NFL history. So, I mean, I think they have a better team from top to bottom. Now you just got to go out and prove it.
No doubt about it. Johnny Mac, what I want to ask you your take on what are your storylines in this game that stick out to you? What narratives stick out to you? You know, for me, I probably have a different perspective than you, an objective reporter, and you know, obviously you cover most of that stuff. The rematch, 2 bowls in 3 years for the Birds. Can Jalen Hurts silence all the critics and get over the hump? Will the Eagles get their second Super Bowl in franchise history? What sticks out to you, though, Johnny Mac, narrative-wise, coming into this week?
Well, I think, you know, one of the ones we got to talk to Howie Roseman a little bit before he went down to New Orleans on Sunday. I think one is, you know, their chase of sort of what he called the standard, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. And, you know, his it's a little bit awkward for him because Andy Reid is his mentor, for those who don't know. He wouldn't be who he is without Andy Reid. And in a lot of ways, the Philadelphia Eagles wouldn't be who they are without Andy Reid. I say it all the time. Everything this organization does, almost everything can be traced back to the fingerprints of Andy Reid. Just the way they do business from a football perspective. So he's such a large presence over this organization in a good way. Everybody loves him. Howie loves him. Jeffrey loves him. You know, and you talk about it ending in a poor way. Everybody's got a shelf life, but it was the most, you know, typically endings are not good. This one, you know, everybody's in the cafeteria giving him a standing ovation on his way out the door. It wasn't acrimonious in any way. And so his shadow over the organization is the big part. And then Patrick Mahomes. I mean, to me, I'm not going to say roots, but, you know, if the Eagles do win, we talk about Jalen Hurts liking to spike the football and Nick Sirianni liking to spike the football when the style points are there. This is a spike the football moment for Johnny Mac if they win, because this shit ain't about the quarterback versus the quarterback. There's more to it. And if you beat the greatest quarterback of the generation, you know, it kind of proves that point. And
that would be 2 Super Bowl wins, John, against arguably the 2 greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Maybe.
And with all due respect, and you can call it disrespect, and I don't give a shit. With all due respect, Jalen Hurts is never going to be better than Tom Brady, and Jalen Hurts is never going to be better than Patrick Mahomes. But can the Philadelphia Eagles beat the New England Patriots on a given day in February? Right. They already did. Can they beat the Kansas City Chiefs? They almost did, and they might do it this time. And that's the point I try to make almost on a daily basis on this show. You know, ultimate team game. People pull it out when they want to pull it out. But it's about a team. It's not about an individual. So, you know, do they have Patrick Mahomes? Yes. Do they have the cheat code? Yes. Do they have a bigger margin of error because they have the cheat code? Yes. Doesn't mean you can't beat them. Doesn't mean he can't.
No, but do we have a better roster in 22? You know, sometimes, John, in the Super Bowl, that's at the exception of Nick Foles, most of the quarterbacks who have won Super Bowls in the last 10 years have been elite quarterbacks.
Well, most of the quarterbacks who've won, if 58 are elite quarterbacks, you know, and there's the rare occurrence. And by the way, Jalen Hurts, that's disrespect. Jalen Hurts isn't Nick Foles. Jalen Hurts isn't Jeff Hostetler. Jalen Hurts is a legitimate starting quarterback in this league. You know, but he's not as good as the best, which is not disrespect. So it's you know, and he's got to play well, and he played well in Super Bowl 57. And hopefully he can play well again. But there's a lot of ways he can win this football game. Saquon Barkley being the most notable, the offensive line, the foundation of this team. And they're just more gifted. They're more talented from top to bottom than the Kansas City Chiefs. They just are.
I agree. I don't really think it's even close if you come at it from that perspective either. I really don't think this Chiefs team has talent like the Eagles do. I mean, they got good players. I'm not saying they don't have good players. Obviously, it's the NFL and they're in the Super Bowl. Everybody's got good players. They're 17-1. But I just mean depth and overall talent. And there's no real weakness when it comes to this Eagles roster. Where's the weakness on the Eagles roster? I'm trying to find it. It's not on the offensive line. Tight end is a top 5 tight end. You got 2 top 10 wide receivers, and one of them's a top 3 wide receiver. You go to the defensive side, you got an all-pro linebacker. You got an all-pro defensive tackle. You got 2 solid edge rushers, one emerging into an all-pro level. I mean, your safety play's been really good, and your cornerback play's been really good. There's no hole there, John.
Yeah, I mean, it's one, and that's where Howie gets his flowers, and he should. And part of it is just things coming together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, if you think about Super Bowl 52, we always talk about Chris Long and Patrick Robinson and LeGarrette Blount and the trade for Jay Ajayi and all the 1-year contracts coming up. This year, it's the draft picks: Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, it's Zach Bond.
Yeah.
A lot of talk about Zach Bond this weekend and the plan there, but you know, nobody thought he was going to be a first-team All-Pro. I could tell you that with 100% certainty.
You didn't even think he was making the Pro Bowl, John.
No, he didn't. Yeah, he didn't. He laughed at the incentive in his contract. Yeah. So, you know, I always you know, people are going to like PFF because I was looking about it. I said, all right, team-wise, let's look at this because I was thinking about the Eagles are more talented. So they grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 categories. And overall, the Eagles are now number 1 throughout because of the playoffs. They continue to grade through the playoffs. So, they should be. Kansas City's 5. Was still very good, top 5. But in those categories, 12. All right. Offense overall, Eagles have the advantage. Passing game, Kansas City has the advantage. No surprise, Eagles haven't been a great passing team this year. Pass block, Eagles are better. Receiving, Eagles are better. Running game, Eagles are obviously better. Run block, Eagles are better. Obviously, defense, Eagles are better. Obviously, run defense, Eagles are better. Tackling, Kansas City gets the edge. Not a surprise. Eagles have been good at times, bad at other times. Pass rush, Eagles are better. Coverage, Eagles are better. Special teams, they give it the advantage to Kansas City. You know, so everybody's who's gonna shit on PFF is gonna all of a sudden like PFF.
Yeah,
they're a better football team. They're a more well-rounded football team.
One game though, John. Slager points out in the chat, Eagles were better last time too. Now, I think the Eagles are better this year than they were in 2020.
I think they were better last time too. I picked them to win last time. I thought they were the better team on the field, and you know they made some key mistakes. So he's 100% right. All it takes is one game. I'm by no means am I saying Kansas City can't beat this team. They can beat this team.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the Eagles have to take advantage of
the difference has to be the defense, John, this time around. I mean, I know Jalen had that turnover, but outside of that turnover, that was maybe probably the greatest game Jalen Hurts has ever played. And he put up 35 points. I mean, that offense moved the ball. That offense got into the end zone. That offense did what they needed to do. The defense is going to have to be the difference this year, in my opinion. You got to hold the Chiefs. You got to get some stops for your offense.
Well, the Chiefs are different too. I mean, I don't think you have to worry about it turning into a shootout.
Yeah, no, they haven't played any game.
They
like
don't.
that all
They
year.
don't play that way. They play a different way now. They, people go back and we always talk about the difference, how much turnover there is in the NFL for each season. Never mind 2 years ago. So I think people get way too caught up in that game versus this game. They're two completely different teams, and I think the personality of the game takes care of that sort of thought process of, oh, you can't give up 38 points. Well, yeah, they don't even play that way. Their high point is 30 points during the season.
Is that what their high was this year? Holy mackerel!
Yeah, they're a grinded out team now. Which helps you in the fact that even if you're playing poorly, you're probably going to be in the game late, and then it comes into, maybe it's that relentless effort of Jalen Hurts. I always talk about making a big play down the stretch, or maybe make a mistake to lose it. But just the way they play, if they give up 38 points in this game, it's much worse than giving up 38 points in that game, if that makes sense. Much worse.
Right.
Because that team was far more capable of putting up points and being a little bit more dynamic. I'm trying to look it up. 30. They scored 30 against Tampa, and they scored 30 against Carolina. That's it. That's their high point offensively. So I don't think you have to worry about the shootout this time.
Which I think plays in the Eagles' favor in a big way.
Yeah, like I said, you're not getting blown out. The Chiefs could get blown out. You're talking worst case scenario.
Definitely get blown out.
You're talking about worst case scenario for both teams. The Chiefs could get blown out. The Eagles cannot get blown out. I firmly believe that.
I'm 100% with you. The Eagles are built to not be blown out. Now, the interesting part about what you laid out there, though, is the Chiefs are going to be in the same boat in terms of they're going to rely on their defense to make some plays, Johnny Mac. That offense, I mean, you just mentioned it, 30 points in the highs. That's not very high in the modern NFL to have 30 points. I mean, we wanted more 30-point games. We had more than they did, so they're going to rely on their defense, man. Spags is going to bring the pressure, and he's going to try and make Jalen Hurts make a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jalen Hurts hasn't made a mistake basically since, I don't know, 4 months. He's got one interception. Now, a lot of that is they play a conservative style. They play a risk-averse style. So in theory, they shouldn't, they're not going to be an explosive team either. However, they have Saquon Barkley, who turns running plays into explosive plays, which is very rare. Probably the first time since Derrick Henry did it too, so I shouldn't say that, but they have that ability to still keep the explosive play on the table in the running game. I mean, they're probably going to throw it 15 to 20 times, especially if things are going their way. Maybe 25 to 30 if things are not going their way. And then, all bets are off. 30 would be very high for this team. Things are going poorly if they're throwing it 30 times, probably. But yeah, I mean, the mystique there is not there for me with Spags. It is for Andy and Patrick.
Yeah, you don't like Spags at all.
It's not about not liking him. He's fine. He's fine. He's a good defensive coordinator, but people have this mystique because he coached here, and I'm like, where does this come from?
I don't think that's it, man. I think Spags creates pressure in moments in situational football to force mistakes, to put you in a tough spot. He is going to say to Jalen Hurts, I'm going to make you be exceptional. Not good, not great. I'm going to make you be exceptional. And if you don't on every third down, I'm going to make you give us the ball. I'm going to make you make a mistake. That's where I don't think you give Spags, the credit. I think he's a
Right?
creative
He's
guy,
not.
man.
What he's going to do, and this is not creative. What he's going to do is sell out and send the house in big moments in the fourth quarter. That's it. That's not creative.
What's every quarterback's kryptonite, John?
Pressure up the middle.
Well, there you go. Spags is going to bring pressure.
No, pressure
That's
with
the point.
4 up the middle. That's every quarterback's kryptonite. Pressure with 4, not pressure with 6, 7. Look, every good defensive coordinator I've ever talked to has said, you're a dummy if you can get home with 4 and you're sending more than that. Because the goal is to get to create that pressure and still have the people on the back end to cover.
Right.
That's the kryptonite. Think Tom Brady against the New York Giants. But I get, and especially in this town, I get it. They love the blitz. So
look,
when
people
you
say
send,
it's not creative to bring pressure. Yes or no? He is more creative than other defensive coordinators with the way he blitzes. It's not just send 6, so it's a regular looking six man rush.
how many people do it? Is he more creative than Brian Flores? No fucking way. Is he more creative than Wink Martindale? No fucking way. So I mean, there are very few guys who sell out the way he does. Number one, especially in this era, because it's shifted more. And again, I've had this discussion all week with people who swear by Spagnuolo. And I'm like, my first defense of that, because I swear by Vic Fangio. And my first defense of that is, why does everybody fucking copy Vic then? Why isn't everybody copying Steve
I don't disagree with
Spagnuolo?
that, but I'm not analyzing that because we're not playing Vic. We're playing Spags. So
But
I'm trying to
point is the thought, and it's the same thing offensively with the creative nonsense. It's not creative to send one more player that's blocking. You're basically gambling. You're going up to the roulette table, saying, all right, I'm going to get home before you can take advantage of this. And if you don't get home, you're probably screwed. Now, they have the advantage of having a player like Trent McDuffie, and that's on Jalen Hurts, to be honest. And we'll see how he handles it.
All right. Every time the Chiefs in this game blitz and they have a completely unblocked rusher coming right at Jalen Hurts, I want everybody in the chat to think of me, okay? Because they're going to get a lot of those moments, and Jalen Hurts
I don't even
is going to be forced to have a response, John.
I don't even think they are until there's a – but that's another thing. That ain't happening in the first quarter. He holds that stuff where he's great. I like the comparison. I made the comparison to Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm old, but I'm going to – old school boxing fans.
There you go.
One of the great boxers of all time. Sugar Ray was also one of the smartest boxers of all time. Like, he would go in there later in his career when he started going up in weight because he kept getting these bigger fights, bigger paydays, but he had to go up in weight. Kind of lost his power advantage against obviously bigger guys. So, and they could wear on him. So what he'd do is the first 2, he was, probably the best defensive boxer of all time, at least until Floyd Mayweather. And nobody likes defensive boxers. You couldn't hit the guy, but that's not exciting.
Right.
So what he would do for the first 2.5 minutes of the round, he would just dance around. The guys couldn't touch him. And then for the final 30 seconds, he'd throw his flurries. And he was also probably the quickest guy ever. And he'd have these massive flurries. And people go, wow, what a round by Sugar Ray Leonard. He sat around and did nothing for 2.5 minutes. But that final 30 seconds, that's what's stuck in everybody's mind. That's what Steve does. Like, he's not coming.
Can't that be effective at times?
Sure, it's been tremendously effective. But I think it's overblown. Like, you're saying, well, Jalen Hurts better be ready. You don't have to be ready in the first quarter. In a big situation in the fourth quarter, yeah, he's got to be ready. Because that final 30 seconds,
right,
he's going to throw the flurries.
Yeah, you just saw the Chiefs advance.
Josh Allen, yeah, he threw the Sugar Ray Leonard flurry.
Yes, he did. There you go. That's what I'm tipping my hat to, John.
But you're saying first quarter, no, that doesn't go on. He's going to hold it, and he's going to sell out like a degenerate gambler in the fourth quarter. And if it works, he's going to be further lionized.
I don't know if I'd go degenerate gamblers. Degenerate gamblers don't.
By
end
the
up
way,
with
I
how
encourage
many
everybody.
Super Bowl rings?
I encourage everybody to go to BetUS too, to bet on the game.
There you go. Nice plug. All right, I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here this morning. Our opening segment, setting the stage. We'll give you an update on where the teams are. Both teams, Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, landed in New Orleans yesterday. All right, so the teams have made it safely. They are successfully in the building, or at least in the town. So good stuff there. Both teams have made it. I want to welcome and thank all of our great people for being here. Chuck Hutton, what's up, Chuck? Crowley, Flexen, Mint Diggity, Yale Roth's in here, James Jones, Twisted Jig of Bombay, Jeff Martin. What's going on, everybody? If I missed you, I didn't mean to miss you, but I appreciate you for being here, Johnny Mac. Who has more pressure coming into this game? We talked about it a little bit last week, but we're 6 days out now, Johnny Mac. 6 days out. Who bears the burden of the most pressure? In my opinion, it's the Philadelphia Eagles, and Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Those are where I point when I think of pressure. But how do you see it? Pressure coming into this game?
I don't know if it's pressure, but yeah, I mean, the Chiefs, I mean, they've already won. So, I mean, what,
Yeah.
but believe me, from their standpoint, they just put pressure on themselves and want to win again and be the first team to ever win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. But certainly Nick Sirianni, what I talked about, has never won a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts has never won a Super Bowl. So if they go in and lose another one, you're going to have that whole narrative. Oh, they can't win the big game. That narrative. So I guess to answer your question, from a fan perspective, they would look at it that way. Certainly the Eagles have, but I think the Chiefs would be crushed. You know, nobody else has done this.
Yeah, and they're probably, I mean, and let's be real, as much as I like the Chiefs, they're probably not going to have another opportunity at a three-peat ever again.
No. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You know, if you lose this and then you go, oh, we'll get through, we got to start again and again. No. I mean, so I think the obvious answer is the Eagles, but I think the Chiefs have plenty of reasons why they want to win this game badly. And, Reed's legacy is safe. Mahomes' legacy is safe. So it's not even about legacy, but I mean, they just want to create history. And it's important to them. And it should be important to them. And the Eagles, obviously, I mean, Howie talked about it this week before he left. I mean, he said the Chiefs are in his head. That's the team.
All
right. Because they're the standard and the Eagles want to become the standard. But right now, the Chiefs are the standard.
Pretty impressive stuff there, John. Let's move into this week, man. And I think that kind of goes in with this pressure. That might not be specifically the same question, but certainly applies to every player who I think is a part of the festivities and everything that goes on this week. What's different about this week, John? You've been to many Super Bowls before. You'll be there again this year. Walk the people through, because I don't know if everybody understands the magnitude of how much shit goes on during this week. What's different about Super Bowl week for players, coaches, media, everything? You got the travel, the media, you mentioned what they do tonight with all the dumb questions and the distractions. Yeah. Obviously, Alshon Jeffrey's famous in this city for, his interview during that. But what's different about this week for these players?
Well, AJ said it best last week, and it's for everyone else. It's not for the players. It's not for obviously the game. It's for everyone else. You do have Super Bowl media night tonight. Will be the circus-like atmosphere. All the international media, all the dumb. If you were a tree, what tree would you be? Questions. Then they have to meet the media Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for basically a block of an hour and 15 minutes. Right. And they got to go through the same thing, and everybody's got to be available, and the coaches got to be available. So you're pulled in 17 different directions. Plus, also you have to prepare for the game. The Eagles are training. The Eagles are practicing as the designated home team. They're practicing at the Saints facility.
Kellen Moore cozying up in his new home, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll get to that in a second. But
you think Nick's going to give him the head coach suite in advance?
Well, he'll get used to it. But the Chiefs are practicing at Tulane. But so you're not at home. You're not. You're in a different environment the entire week when you're prepping. You have to do all that extra stuff around the typical practice. It's just not normal. And then the game itself, you have the extended halftime show, so you have a larger. Nick Sirianni talked about that the first time. Maybe they didn't handle that well because you have this usual halftime sort of routine, and now you got this giant show going on. And it's an extra 15 minutes. And
yeah, it's normally 12, 15 minutes total. I know because I do the halftime show every single week. And this one might be 12, 15 minutes before they have the stage set up, for crying out loud.
So there's different aspects to the game that are different. The whole thing is just it's like football on steroids from a outside perspective. And then when you get on the field, that's the only normal parts. And then there's such a emphasis on, this is it, win or lose, everybody's going home after this game. But, the Chiefs are either historic or disappointed, and the Eagles either lost to the Chiefs for a second time and can't win the big game, or everything is copacetic for at least 3 years. I'm not making that mistake again.
Yeah, right. No doubt. We'll see how it all plays out. How much of that actually means anything, John, to the game, you think? I mean, I don't think it matters, but I do think there is an element of people that are players that maybe get caught up in it. What's the biggest mistake they might make leading up to the game? I don't worry about that with most of the Eagles players, especially because of the experience that they have from the Super Bowl in 22. That's what I think does help them. I know they're different teams and everything, but how much of it really matters coming into the game, or is it none of it, other than that it throws off your routine?
Well, throwing off your routine can be a bigger thing. Some people crave the big stage, and some people, shrink on the big stage. It's just the way it is. And that's usually a personal thing. But, we were talking about Timmy Smith, one of the great Super Bowl stories of all time. And a lot of people are saying, who's got the, because of Saquon, who's got the Super Bowl rushing record? I mean, of all the people in the Super Bowl, nobody knows who Timmy Smith was, and rightfully so, unless you're an old timer and were around when it happened. Came out of nowhere to rush for whatever it was, 204 yards, I think, for a Super Bowl record. And he's got like 600 rushing yards in his entire career.
Pretty crazy.
So you have those types of things that are rare. Nick Foles is, better career, obviously, but, you're one of the great Super Bowls of all time. Nick Foles. I mean, think about all the great quarterbacks that have been in Super Bowls. Some people grab that moment and just run with it. And others.
Do you see an unlikely player being a big difference in this game, whether it's on either team?
Well, I don't know about Kansas City because they've been there so much. But for the Eagles, no, probably not. I mean, who the stars are.
You remember back in 2017, we had rookie undrafted
Corey Clement,
man. I mean, and he didn't have one play. He had multiple. He had two big runs that got you down inside the red zone. He had the big catch in the back of the end zone. Like, he had an unbelievable Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't know if he caught the one, but
the touchdown.
Yeah,
caught it.
It's funny. It's funny the way they were calling.
You kidding me, John? He caught that sucker.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Eagles fans who think everybody's against them should remember that. Just the way they were calling it all that season. And by the way, I hated the rule. They were calling that incomplete all season. And then they kind of shifted at the last moment. So they got a break there. But
Kind of reminds me of the Devontae Smith catch in the last Super Bowl. You remember that one down the sideline?
Yeah.
I thought that should have been a catch.
But either way, I mean, they don't always are on the negative side of bang bang plays, and they got a little bit lucky from the way they were calling it that season, and they shifted late in the playoffs, so it wasn't just the Eagles. So I think they kind of figured out, this is coming up too much. We're bucking this up, and they changed it, and it worked out for the Eagles. But I digress, just to the point of the officials, which we'll get to, but even though I don't want to, and Kellen Moore as well. I don't want to hear the preordained excuses. They're the better football team. Go out and win the game. I don't want to hear after the game, oh, Kellen Moore, if they don't play as well offensively, he was unfocused.
It's one game. There's no excuses. I don't care if Jalen Hurts gets hurt in the first quarter. There's no excuses. Go out and win the game. You got 60 minutes.
I want to hear about referees' calls. Mahomes is going to try to take advantage of you. Be disciplined. Don't push him out of bounds when he stops and makes you push him out of bounds. Just lightly carry him out of bounds. Be disciplined. I don't want to hear those excuses. I don't want to hear the preordained excuses. You're the better football team, more talented football team. Go finish. But that's what people do. They set up these narratives so they can go, see, if they don't perform poor. If the Eagles lose this game, it will be on the players like it was last time. It will be on the players.
Good stuff there, John. John, let's give everybody an update on some of the stuff that transpired just at the end of last week. I know we had obviously Birds 365 on Friday. We did another football 24/7, both Friday evening and Saturday morning, or Saturday after the practice. Where are the Birds in terms of their health and coming into this game? And just any other updates that we have as they obviously took off for New Orleans yesterday. But how did it all wrap up last week of practice, and anything you know about the Chiefs as well, health-wise, coming into this game?
Yeah, both teams are pretty healthy from the standpoint of it. Yeah, again, and I use that. I hate to use that term because a bunch of guys aren't healthy, but they're healthy from the standpoint of guys are going to play.
Right, they're not out of the game. Yeah. Out of the game is not healthy in this circumstance.
And in the case with the Eagles, the two biggest ones are Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson, and they're both, they put out that estimated goofy injury report that if they had to play a game on Sunday, which they didn't, they would have played. So they would have played this Sunday, never mind next Sunday. So they're going to play. And the only player Kansas City listed was Sky Moore, who's, wide receiver. They listed him as doubtful, but, he's not a big part of what they do. So from that standpoint, everybody's going to play. It'll be interesting. I think the Eagles will activate Brandon Graham. I don't think he's going to play a ton, but, I think that's more of a psychological thing to get him back and what he means to the team and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's really going to affect the rotation much. He might get a handful of snaps, but it's still going to be Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt getting the majority of the snaps. So, as you can imagine, Super Bowl, nothing afterward, everybody's going to play. And Brandon, by the way, knows he's at risking re-tearing his triceps, and he wants to play.
There you go, baby. Shows you that BG will definitely be hanging him up this year. I think, at least. Maybe not, but I don't know if you weren't retired, maybe you don't want to re-tear your triceps in February.
Well, there's a lot of things that go into that. One is, the Eagles. Sometimes you have to make difficult decisions. obviously, I think he'd be willing to work with them on the money figure, but do they want to get younger? How he was talking about that a lot, about the difference in his job versus, the coaches who are trying to win every week. He's got to think about the future. So there's a lot more that goes into that than just, but I know he was disappointed when he got hurt. Then he was thinking about, all right, because he had announced he was going to retire, obviously. And then he was thinking about changing his mind because he didn't want it to end that way. But if he can get back on the field in the Super Bowl and win it, yeah, he's going to retire, I would think. And Lane Johnson, that's the other big story, confirmed he's coming back, win or lose, which, not a surprise. He said he's going to play a couple more years. But when
Good
you
to get
win,
confirmation.
that might change your thinking and say, you know what, let's go out on top. But he said he's coming back no matter what.
Yeah, win or lose. Lane Johnson has said he will return. So we will see Lane Johnson in an Eagles uniform next season. Great stuff there. John, just the last update for the people, though, on some of that stuff, because I think it broke Friday, I think is when we talked about it extensively after Birds 365. Kellen Moore is going to be gone. That's what it looks like to me. What's the update on Kellen Moore? And
we talked about that. That broke earlier than that, but
no, it was. I think it was Friday that we thought he was going to get the job, and then it kind of got confirmed on Friday. I think. I don't know. It all runs together. John. I've done so many damn shows.
Yeah, I don't. It was before that because. I'm thinking Saturday, so I don't.
Yeah, I thought I remembered you on the Football 24/7 saying, "Yeah, Kellen's going to be gone."
Yeah, I am. So I don't want to. Yeah, I don't know what day it was, but I'm with you. Everything comes together. But they started informing the other candidates, which it turned out to be Anthony Weaver and Mike Kapka. So it wasn't. It wasn't Newt Rockney and George Hallis. It was.
I don't even know if they wanted Kellen. They just had nobody else left.
Well, the league was, pretty sure that that was Mike McCarthy's plan, and for whatever reason, things didn't work out with. I think that was the key point. Kellen interviewed with the Saints Monday night last week into Tuesday morning here in Philadelphia, and that's sort of the turning point. And I think it was both ways. From the standpoint, I was told that, Kellen had some concerns, and he should, about the quarterback situation. And, he was worried basically that, all right, it's probably going to take a while to find a quarterback and get this thing going. And he was concerned about a quick trigger. And evidently, whatever they said, they made some promises about patience and things like that. And that got it over the hump for Kellen. And I guess they liked Kellen enough to say, we don't like Mike McCarthy. And then Mike pulled out. It was essentially told not getting the job, but let him say pulled out. And like I said, Anthony Weaver and Mike Kapka, so he's getting the job. And, Mickey Loomis did what he had to do because they've done it the right way. This is not an Arizona situation. They can't talk to him until after the Super Bowl now. And there's always, and he left it open. He said the final decision hasn't made, but we're going to work towards getting something done with Kellen Moore. And that speaks to the contract and things like that, because, if Kellen goes in and pulls a Ben Johnson on Tuesday or Monday, whenever he does it. He's not
an upset the apple card kind of guy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, he doesn't have that kind of cachet. It'd be, he's a first-time head coach who hasn't, he doesn't have a lot of power to ask for $15 million. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. But that's why you leave the door open, like Mickey Loomis, because you never know. But.
Yeah. Speaking of leaving the door open, this is Kellen in the Saints facility next week. Nick's going to leave. The players are going to be gone. Kellen's going to be tiptoeing around the Saints facility. He's going to take a peek in that head coach office, go in, sit on the chair, kick his feet up real quick, Johnny Mac, and start to dream of the future.
Nah, don't,
Everybody.
don't get the idiots and hyped up on that. No, he's not. He's an adult human male. He's
Yes,
been
he
through it
is, John.
before.
He's going to be dreaming of that new facility. You can't tell me otherwise.
Well, they probably have a better facility than the Eagles because everybody has a better.
Eagles don't have. I guess they haven't updated all those facilities yet.
No, the Eagles are. That's the only thing they are bottom half of the league when it comes to facilities.
I'm surprised at that.
No, I mean it's just old. Well, it's just too old.
Yeah, right. Time goes on, and people get new stuff. They upgrade it. Yep.
I mean the upgrades, Dallas and Miami and Minnesota. I mean those are the three that everybody points to, and they're all basically not brand new, but they're all new. The Jets have a phenomenal facility. Yeah, there's so many great facilities. In the Eagles, it's just they don't even have a full indoor practice field. The Philadelphia Eagles, they don't have enough space.
Maybe if they win this Super Bowl and
well, they have plenty of money, but I think Jeffrey doesn't want to. He's got to go to the suburbs to get the space,
right?
But I don't know if he wants to do that.
Yeah, he might not want to do that. We'll see. Maybe if his bid for the Celtics falls through. We're gonna have two owners in Philly, John, that own teams all over the place. I know they're good businessmen, but good night. Oh, you're gonna buy the Celtics? I mean, you had to pick the Celtics. I know he's a Boston guy, but
he loves the Celtics.
Yeah, fuck you. You decided to buy the Philadelphia Eagles. All right.
So does Devontae Smith, by the way, big Celtics.
Yeah, that's different. Devontae doesn't own the team. All right, here we go. We got two super chats. Then I got a great question.
Jeffrey tried to buy the Patriots before he bought the Eagles.
He's a Boston guy. That's what he likes. He likes that stuff better. That's fine. I got a great question for you after the break. We'll check in on some of our great viewer comments. We appreciate everybody being here. Got a big crowd in here today as we prep for Super Bowl. 6 days away, everybody. Are the nerves building? Is the confidence wavering? Well, I'll get some of your takes on that. We got 3 super chats.
Question for me? No, the nerves are not building.
No,
not about the game.
A Johnny Mac question. I have
not about the game, about other things, but not about the game. Yes.
Yeah, no, not asking John about that. Man in Black checks in. What's up, Man in Black? Uh-oh. You're going to get John started early, aren't you? Be easy on the flopping QB is a sad way to have a play in the Super Bowl. Buddy walks like Taylor Swift, hit him from the back. How you doing? Nah. And he checked in earlier and said, so we acknowledge that Mahomes takes advantage of the flag, but we aren't going to acknowledge that the refs favor his flops. John, it's Monday.
Yeah, you know what I find ironic. I don't know if because I always use the and it was Man in Black doing both of those comments.
Yeah.
I don't know. Most people are Jordan fans when I talk to the NBA, and when I say like LeBron's the most well-rounded player, they get all butthurt and all that kind of stuff. And again, I go back to Michael Jordan. They literally have a term. It's called the Jordan rules, because he became what he became, and yeah, the officials gave him deference. Same thing happened to Greg Maddux in baseball. It happens in every sport. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes doesn't get deference. You got to understand that going into the game. It's part of it.
Right. And that's why you said be disciplined. No pushing when you get out of bounds. There's no reason.
Yeah. So instead of whining about it, instead of preordaining your excuse, John Ferrari does that has a meeting every Saturday with this team. That's the assistant, one of the 2 assistant GMs. He's the rules expert, football ops expert. He has a meeting with the team every single Saturday to tell them what to be on alert for the particular officiating crew. Nobody prepares for it better than the Eagles. Deal with it. Deal with it or don't. And be a loser and complain about it.
It's true. That's true, John. Suo Blaze checked in. Good morning, Super Bowl week, LFJ. LFJ, brother. Appreciate you, Suo. Thanks for being here. Appreciate everybody, by the way, for being here. We're going to take our first commercial break. When we come back, I got some great topics to run by John. It's a traveling week. everybody. Normally we have Jeff Kerr on Mondays. Jeff Kerr is on the move this morning. Normally we have Chris Franklin. He's got business to deal with this morning. So we're going to get some people all week, but it is going to be kind of one of those weeks. All right. John's flying in on Wednesday to New Orleans. All right. So stay tuned. I'll keep you guys posted on what the schedule looks like for content. Here's my one guarantee. Okay. We're going to have a lot of content. All right. It might look different. It might be in different locations. We might be at different times. We're going to have a lot of content on the channel this week. All right. I'll be live a lot. I'll be doing Saturday shows. I'll be doing a bunch. All right. As we lead into the Super Bowl. So make sure you guys stay locked in. We appreciate all of you guys for being here. Let's get to my man, Chris Albright. Chris, great email last night, brother. I appreciate you. He checks in and says, if Kellen takes Doug with him, could it be possible to see a Frank Reich and John DeFilippo reunion? Interesting question there.
Boy, everybody wants the reunions, man.
I know, man.
No. Certainly not Flip. I mean, I don't think, boy, John hasn't been coaching for a number of years now, but Nick, Nick obviously considers Frank Reich his mentor, so I just don't think it fits from the standpoint. I don't know how that relationship works. Flip has been out of the NFL just since 2021. He did some coaching with the USFL.
Yeah, we used to have him on our show, on our channel, John, once a week with Rick Saratella. Yeah.
So I mean, I would say no on that. And I just don't like the thought process because when you go and forget about because you saw it in college with Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's back in the NFL, by the way, with the Raiders offensive coordinator for Pete Carroll. But you saw it in college at Ohio State, Ryan Day he was here with Chip Kelly. And then they flipped it and had success and won a national championship. But Frank also considers Nick also considers Frank his mentor. So I just don't like this. I don't like that setup.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, here, let me push back on you. You didn't like the setup coming into this year. They're in the Super Bowl.
Well, I didn't like the setup because of the way it was perceived. And
and I agreed with you. Full transparency. I was.
But it turned out to the Eagles' credit, to Jeffrey's credit, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like they were taking away power from Nick Sirianni. They didn't. So he was still able to control the whole situation. I thought he wasn't going to have that kind of power. And I don't like that setup. But it turns out he basically kept his whole offensive coaching staff, with the exception of the scapegoats, Brian Johnson and Alex Tanney, who was the quarterback's coach. Kellen Moore only got two people, Doug Nussmeier and a lower level coach named Kyle Valero. That's it. To come in. Everybody else was a holdover, basically, from Nick's staff. So it didn't turn out to the way the perception was. If it turned out that way, I don't think you're here, to be honest. So I give Jeffrey Lurie credit for that. And it didn't turn out to be the way many speculated, including myself. And for a lot of weeks, people didn't believe it. But it became very clear that Nick was still in control of the entire thing. So as long as that's the case, there's no issues. And that's part of the reason they are here. But yeah, with the Frank Reich, and boy, people just, the moment he got fired, are you bringing Frank Reich back? I mean, you got to move on, got to change the page, got to turn the page. But
we got one of these things, all right? We got one of these damn championships, and Frank Reich was a big part of it, all right? People are always going to love him, man. People are always going to.
I know, but and Flip was a part of that too. But I mean, you can't. You got to go forward, man. Can't go.
Yeah,
back.
I hear you. I'm not against it. I understand what you're saying. Edgar checks in. What's up, Edgar? My guy Edgar, one of our legend members. I appreciate it. I don't know how to pronounce your last name though, Edgar. Nalcha Dijin. Nalcha Nalcha Deanne. I don't know, man. I'm probably botching that. All right. I appreciate you though, Edgar. Flops, refs, no excuses. We know what to expect. Go out there and handle business. Our talent level is so much better than we should not be in a position where 2 or 3 bad calls change the outcome. That's a guy that's been listening to Johnny Mac for a little while, right, John?
Well, that's the mentality you should have always. There's going to be bad calls. Guess what? There's going to be bad calls on the Chiefs. It's the way it works. They're human beings. They're going to make some calls that aren't correct. Persevere or don't. Control what you can control. If you fall apart and you melt down because the call doesn't go your way, yeah, that's on you. So, I mean, there's a lot of crying when Michael Jordan pushed off Byron Russell. Live with it.
No doubt. Good stuff, Edgar. Appreciate you checking in, my man. Good stuff. Great opening segment. We set the stage on Super Bowl week. I did update you guys. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs have both landed in New Orleans. So our guys took off yesterday. They had a, what did they call it? A flying out party, or what did they call it yesterday?
I don't know. They had something at the link.
They had a bunch of something down there. Was anybody down at the link yesterday to watch the team?
I certainly was not. Yeah, I don't. I think it was NBC Philadelphia or somebody followed the buses from Novacare to.
Yeah, I saw that with the drone.
Yeah.
I saw that. I'm like, that's a little interesting, but that's what they do. Yeah, the send-off party. That's what it was. Yeah. So Eagles are down in New Orleans, and I love it. Good stuff, man.
I'm just glad everybody made it safe.
Yeah, me too.
What's going on in the freaking world? But so yeah, everybody's down there. And yeah.
Eerie moment, John, on our Friday show. As you bring that up, we want to pray for everybody, obviously, in the Northeast Philadelphia where that plane crash happened, that small plane. And one of our viewers commented, I texted John. Here I am texting John at 11:45 on a Friday night. I'm like, I got to leave John alone. This guy's been working too much. Last person he wants to hear from at 11:45 on a Friday night is me. But one of our viewers commented, John, that plane took off at 6:06. We started our segment at 6:05. And at the start of the segment, you said,
"Yeah, it had to be
lit
the
up
plane."
The sky." And I didn't think obviously anything of it in the moment. And somebody commented after, "Whoa, I just looked when this segment aired. Was that?" Now I don't know if it was or not.
It had to be. I was thinking about when you texted me. I probably was tired. I'm like, because I was facing the opposite direction because the Eagles were
right, but it did light up that whole freaking sky.
Yeah, it lit up the whole sky, and I was like, it had been raining all day, and I'm like, is it lightning? And it was obviously very cloudy, so because it was still raining, and it's just weird. And I was thinking about it after you texted me, and I'm like, well, I wasn't facing that direction, but I think it was such a huge explosion, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and I think it lit up the whole sky. At least through the clouds. Now, it wasn't overt, but it was noticeable.
Right. Yeah, I remember I kicked it to you. I did my open. I kicked it to you. It was the first thing you said. You said, yeah, I'm down in South Philly. Something just lit up the sky.
Yeah.
It was eerie. It was weird. And then I got a comment after, and I went back and listened to it, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened there. So pretty crazy stuff, but definitely praying for everybody. That was 4 miles from my house, and well, I tell you, the sirens were going like crazy.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, even in South Philadelphia, which is, not that far, but difficult to get there at that time.
Yeah, well, you know how Philly is. 8 miles takes 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But it was, you even in South Philly, you heard the sirens because there were people in South Philly trying to get there to help first responders and stuff. So, yeah, terrible situation. And, days earlier in DC with the Black Hawk, and it's just, bad situation.
Yeah, no doubt, man. We're praying for everybody, man, in the world. I hope everybody stays safe out there. Be safe this week as we prep for the Super Bowl week. We appreciate all you guys being here. Let's get to our first commercial break. When we come back, I got some key questions for John about this football game. what sticks out to him, matchups, pressure points, trenches, you name it. We're going to get into it all. So we appreciate that. We'll take any super chats toward the end of the show. I mentioned it's a travel day. So a lot of our guests are traveling around, but we will have as much content this week for you guys as possible. So we appreciate you all being here. Let's get to our commercial break. Before I do that, I want to tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. They've been sponsoring us all football season. I've showed you the graphic before, and you're going to see it again. YouTube 150 is the promo code. It gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit. You get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. We appreciate them for sponsoring the show. Go and check them out and get your Super Bowl wagers in, everybody. The wagers on the big games. So we will see how it all plays out this weekend and log everything you do over at BetUS. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody, on Birds 365.